Hello and welcome, it's Paul from QR4rigs. I'm going to show you today how to align or realign the guides on a QRMax base mount. Now the reasons you might want to do that is if you've mounted your QRMax base mount to your rig, you'd probably have to undo at least these screws for the guides to get to this screw hole. It's best to actually mount them with the widest spacing. And this applies to the QRMax DOFR base mount and also to the QRMax base mount 40, which we're going to use today to show you. So the first thing is that this is already calibrated and already aligned with a with a QR plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely trash that and just show you that the movement on these guides. So I don't know if you can see that, if the camera's picking that up, but that can rock from side to side. Just doing them up will not align them. And the reason for that is because on the QRMax range we use countersunk screws which are slightly bigger than we use on our other ranges. We use M5 on our other ranges. These are M6 and these go into M6 nuts. And as with all threads and all metal, it needs slightly more clearance than when you're going into plastic. So what you end up with is a moving target, as it were, to get right. Now you could, accidentally do it up so everything's like this and go to put your plate on and realise that you can't get it on. It just won't go. It's just too stiff, and the reason for that is because it's not aligned or calibrated, as we call it. So what we're going to do today is just show you how to make slight adjustments, but more importantly how to align all of the guides. So I'm just loosening them off now. All of the guides on the QRMax system. Sorry, my hands are getting in the way, just because they're nipped up. So the first thing you want to do is loosen off all the guides. That's probably the best place to start, unless you've only just removed this one, because all of the base mounts do come calibrated from us. When you receive them, they will be calibrated, and will have used QR plates that have come, or that you've ordered with it, or if you haven't, we'll use some out of stock, just to make sure everything fits together nicely. So you can see here all the guides move, and that's just by loosening them slightly. Now I haven't loosened them so that the screws are proud. The screws are still sunken and still below the surface, which will allow me to put this QR plate on, but it'll be very sloppy. Okay, lots of movement and it's very sloppy all the way down. So what we don't want is very sloppy or very, very tight. What we want is a nice piece of friction so that when it gets to the other end we can click the lock in place and there's zero movement. So number one, if you're doing a complete calibration, or if it's become too tight or too loose for whatever reason, first thing to do is loosen off all the guides. Now you're better off taking your QR plate off your controller. You can do it while the base mount is mounted to your rig, absolutely, no need to move that, but we recommend removing a controller QR plate from one of your controllers to do this, unless you've got one that hasn't been mounted. So, as I say, that's too loose. So the first thing we want to do is really get a datum point or somewhere to calibrate from. And we're going to use this guide here. It's the smallest guide, but what we're going to do is use this edge of the base plate and this edge of the lever to actually line this up so that it is collinear or parallel. It's collinear to this edge, but it's parallel to the outer edge, and that will make sure that this is square and we've got a good starting point. So with your finger, just feel, you know, move it around, move the guide around with the lever, and just feel for when the lever pushing on the guide this side. Just feel for when you can't feel the seam between the lever and the base mount, and that's parallel. So just hold it down and just nip up like that. Nip up these pieces, these screws, and notice I'm not using the maximum leverage by using the Allen key that way. I'm only using the Allen key this way, and that's all that's needed on any of our products. So we've tightened this up, used our finger and our thumb on the shortest part of the Allen key, and that's now tight. There's no need to over tighten. In fact, if you over tighten, you start distorting. So we've got our datum edge. Now we've got to align these with that. Now the easiest way to do that is with the controller plate. So the next one we're going to align is this one, and this will give us our friction. So basically, you want to align it up. As you can see, it's still a bit sloppy, but I don't know if you can see that. As I push it closer, this guide goes over this way, and that's because it's kind of aligning as it's going down. So what we want to do is get it all the way to the end, just put our thumb on the end and pull back, and then what we're going to do is just nip up that end one. See how it feels. It's still too loose. So what we're going to do is push that whole guide a little bit and then nip it up a bit tighter. And now I'm feeling it tight when it gets to that point, which means I can clip it in place. It's hard when it's sliding around, but clip it in place. And this is a locking lever, okay? If you've got heavy controllers, just a quick point, if you've got heavy controllers, don't use this to pull this out of the way. Just unclip it to that point, you know, so that this is off the lock. As you move your controller back towards you, it will push this lever out of the way. When you've got heavy controllers, you need to support them with both hands. Otherwise, you're going to get a twist and a distort, and it's going to be difficult to get it off. And when controllers weigh, you know, 15 pounds or 17.5 pounds like a DD2, you don't really want to put that pressure on that joint there. This is just a pivot point for the locking mechanism. Okay, so that's locked in place. That is unlocked, and you can see it just moves it out of the way. So now we've got this basically so that the middle's still wobbly, but you've got a nice bit of friction. You can just feel it. It's not too stiff. I can still get it on and off. Whoops. You know, with my fingers. This will help because there's no controller on it. So, but I can feel it locking into place. So we'll tighten the rest of that up and just check it again. It sounds like it takes a long time, but I'll show you in a minute how quickly it is without talking through it and talking each piece. So that's still feeling nice. Now, just by pulling this backwards and forwards, you can see that this has stopped moving. That's because it's centralised. But what we need to do is get it so this edge is as parallel or as collinear as possible to the back edge of the base mount. Okay, so that's feeling good. So I'm just holding it down in place, nipping them up. Once the first one's nipped, it shouldn't really move, but I'm just making sure everything's kept in place, and that's nice now. That you can feel the friction as you close it up, and that is no movement there at all between the plates, which is what you want. Absolutely solid, but still easy to come up, get off. You need clearance between these, the male and the female dovetails. You just need clearance. But you only need a little bit of clearance, 0.1, 0.2 of a millimetre, which is a tiny amount. But with metal, to use that kind of tolerance, you'd need lubrication. And that's one reason, while we're at it, that we don't use metal, because of the lubrication. Can you imagine that's on your controller, and it's covered with oil from the lubrication, and you put it down on the table, and then you put your arm on the table, or whatever, you know, and all of a sudden you've got oil all over the sleeves, over your furniture, and you're not the most popular person in the world. So there we go. You can just, I don't know if you can hear it, the difference sound. But I can't throw it past that point. In fact, it kind of stops, and you have to give it a bit of encouragement to get the last piece as it clicks in place and mates up with this angle here. Okay, so that's it. That is it. So whether it's one of these or one of these or any other QRMax that we might bring out, they'll all be calibrated or adjusted the same. Now if you've only just moved this one, then again life's easy because you don't have to alter these two. So you'll just be moving this to get the right feel before you tighten it up. And again, you don't need to use the Allen key this way. Use it this way. Use your Allen key this way. Don't use power tools. This is plastic. Okay? It's not metal and it's plastic, so don't use power tools. That's it. It's as simple as that. Quick recap. I've loosened off all of these, as I said I would. Number one, align this, hold it in place, push the guide against it, nip up, and then tighten finger and thumb on the Allen key. That's all that's required. Pop the QR plate on, hold this one in position, get the back nice and level, or parallel to the back, go linear with the back. Try it, not enough. Move it over a bit, back in, that's it. You can just feel it, it just feels nice at that point. You can feel it gripping at the end. So this one, do it up so it's nice and straight. We've got one of these too high, that one. There we go, make sure these aren't proud. Okay, and then we just need to do the middle one. That's it. Open that up a bit. Hold it down with your thumb, make sure it's level on the back. Nip it up, just try again, that's lovely. Open up. And tighten up. There you go. Told you it didn't take long. If you have any questions, leave a comment in the comment section on this video or contact support@QR4rigs.com. Thanks for watching, see you next time.